Welcome to another episode of Angling Wisdom. I'm your host, Patrick Edwards. Thanks for coming back for another week. This week, we're going to talk about 3 different species that you can target during the spring season, and you won't want to miss this one. Welcome to the Angling Wisdom Podcast, the freshwater fishing podcast for multi-species anglers.
I've known Patrick for quite a few years, and there are a lot of people out there. It's an ego-driven industry. It's all about them. To find somebody that really wants to go find anglers for all different species, to bring them in, to give everybody a voice. This is the difference between what Patrick's doing and a lot of other shows. Is there's only a special few out there.
I have a very special guest all the way from Wapiti, Wyoming.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Jim Zumbo. It's nice to actually spend 2.5 days fishing.
With a master angler like you, are you kidding me? This is a real treat.
Get ready for the culmination of angling wisdom and fun. I'm your host, Patrick Edwards, and this is the Angling Wisdom Podcast.
All right, so it's almost springtime. Temperatures are going up and the weather is getting nicer, and the days, thank goodness, are getting so much longer. And so it's that exciting time of year where everybody goes out to their garage, to their shed, starts getting all their tackle ready and thinking, what should I go chase after this spring? So I'm going to give you 3 different species that I like to target in spring and give you just some basics on how to go and catch them, especially in the springtime period. So number 1 is suckers. And I know some of you are not surprised by that. Some of you may be a little shocked that I would even bring up suckers, but the very first species I would go after in the spring is suckers. Those of you who have done sucker fishing know that springtime is spawn time for suckers, and so they congregate heavily, and they are a lot easier to target. And this goes for every sucker species I've ever caught. So in the springtime, if you want, suckers are very available. They're plentiful, and you can find them in streams, rivers, all your tributaries. They'll pile up, get ready to spawn, and you can have really awesome fishing days where you can catch lots and lots of suckers. So let's just talk a little bit about what you would use to catch suckers. It's so simple. So if you have kids, if you have friends, somebody you want to get out and have them catch a fish, suckers are a good one to go after, because my favorite rig is a pickerel rig, and basically it's just weight on the bottom with a couple of hooks that come off of it, and you just bait it with night crawlers or earthworms. Very simple system. Throw it out there, let it sit on the bottom. Their mouths are oriented on a sucker down towards the bottom, so you can throw the bait out, let it sit. They'll come along and they'll pick up your bait. One thing you should note is that they also have a very sensitive mouth. So if you're going to bait your hook, make sure that you're covering it well with that night crawler or earthworm, and then hold on to the rod because you want to be able to feel for their bite. When you feel them pick it up, you need to set the hook and then start wenching them in. That is one thing about suckers, is they're not really great fighters. In fact, they're kind of lame, kind of like a walleye. They don't fight super hard, but they can be really, really fun to catch in the springtime. And they are very concentrated, so they're really easy to target. Some things you can do with suckers, surprisingly, if you want to eat them, you can. Probably one of the number 1 ways people eat it is pickled. And the reason that people pickle suckers is because they have plentiful bones. So if you've ever messed with a sucker, they're full of bones. And that's why a lot of people are like, that's trash fish, I don't want to eat that. Really, they don't taste bad. They actually taste good. I've got a video that I'll drop in here that you can watch of us eating suckers. It's not my favorite fish in the whole world, but you can definitely eat it. And pickling is probably the best way. And what pickling is you're using a vinegar to dissolve the bones so that you can just eat the flesh. And obviously that takes some time. And if you're not a big pickling fan, like pickled things, it's probably not going to be your thing. But it is one of the number 1 ways to do it. Another way that I've done it is smoking them, and that works out pretty well. Again, the drawback is the bones, so you have to really pay attention when you're eating it. Got to really watch out for your kids and different people if they have a hard time with fish bones. You got to really watch that so they don't choke.
Fellow anglers, it's time to up your game with PK Lures, crafted to help you catch the fish of your dreams. Whether it's the classic PK spoon, the flutterfish, or the reliable PK Ridgeline crankbait, PK Lures has the perfect lure for any fishing scenario. No matter if you're fishing on the ice or in open water, PK Lures has a wide range of lure options to help you catch walleye, trout, panfish, and more. These aren't just lures, they're proven performers. Designed by master angler Pat O'Grady and tested by some of the best anglers in the world, they are trusted for results. From the hard water to open lakes and rivers, PK Lures delivers. Find your perfect lure today at pklure.com and use the code WISDOM for 20% off of your order.
But smoked sucker tastes great. The other way to do it is to put the meat through a food processor and make fish cakes with it. I've done that a few times. Those turn out pretty well. I do like the flavor, but doesn't always get rid of all the bones. So inevitably you'll have a bone here and there. Just be really careful if you are going to eat the suckers. Another great thing you can do with them is just fillet them and put those fillets in the freezer and use them for bait, for lake trout, for catfish, for other types of fish. Suckers are a great way to start. So that would be my first species. The second species would be trout. This time of year, the trout really get moving and they can be a lot of fun to catch. I catch them on a variety of different baits. Probably number one this time of year, especially in early March, is using a crankbait. I like to throw a number 6 or number 8 X-Wrap. They tend to get pretty motivated to catch food, and so they'll smash crankbaits, which is so much fun. I was telling someone the other day that I think catching trout on suspending crankbaits is probably one of the most fun things, just because they hit so violently hard and they fight like crazy. This is the time of year to start throwing those baits. You can catch some really big browns, rainbows doing that. Another thing is, of course, still fishing jigs. Those work well. But if you're a fly angler, this is the time of year. The flies start to work really, really well this time of year. So you'll see fly fishermen out there beating up the trout pretty good with the flies.
Whether you're deep in the backcountry or gearing up for your next hunt, Kifaru has your back, quite literally. As someone who has broken their back twice, I can speak to the unparalleled performance of the Kifaru packs and frames. From their industry-leading backpacks built for extreme durability to ultralight shelters that withstand the punishing elements, Kifaru gear is engineered for those who demand the best. Customizable, rugged, and made right here in the USA, Kifaru is trusted by hunters, hikers, and explorers who refuse to compromise. Visit Kifaru.net and discover why Kifaru is the ultimate name in outdoor adventure.
Another thing too is spoons and spinners this time of year. The PK spoon, I remember I actually had a memory come up, it was either today or yesterday on Facebook, of the PK spoon that's like the crawfish color. And I was throwing that a few years ago, and back to back, I caught a 23 and a 22-inch brown, and that was really awesome. But they really like that color. They're really starting to get active, getting more aggressive, a little more territorial. So get out there and throw those spoons, throw those spinners. They will hammer them. And of course, if you are going to keep some fish, spring fish are good smoked. I love smoking trout in the springtime. My smoker will probably be getting used pretty heavily this year. Just, it's such a good way to eat fish, especially trout that are here in Wyoming. Like, they taste amazing coming out of the smoker. So if you are going to smoke them, I do have a couple of tips. One, try applewood or alderwood. Those are my two favorites. The other thing I would say is make sure you have a good fish brine. I use High Mountain's gourmet fish brine, High Mountain seasonings, and it's phenomenal. You can't go wrong with that. So that would be my second species to target in the springtime. Now, my third one is probably not going to be a shocker to anybody, because who doesn't like fish tacos? So let's talk about walleyes. I really enjoy going after walleye in the springtime. They're accessible. A lot of times you can catch them from shore if you know where to go, whether that's on a river, on a reservoir, or on a lake. The other thing too is they're pretty likely to bite. So if you're fishing say a suspended minnow under a bobber, that's an easy way to fish for them. Or if you want to fish a jig and a minnow, or if you want to fish a crankbait, a suspending crank, you can catch them on all those applications. And what they'll do is they'll look for their spawning habitat. And so they'll look for warmer water. They'll also look for rock and gravel and that kind of thing. So if you know some of those places in your home areas, now you have a idea of where to start. Windblown points this time of year here in Wyoming, that's a great place to look. But the fish are usually fairly active and will want to bite. So I love fish tacos. I love catching walleye in the spring. You can be pretty selective too, which is nice. So if you're fishing around the time of the spawn and you catch a really big plump one and you want to put her back so that she can spawn, I would encourage you to do that. If you don't, that's up to you. If you want to take it home, it's your fish. But it is nice because you can catch a lot of the males too and be a little more selective and take some of those home.
For me, fishing isn't just a hobby, it's a way of life. And every angler deserves a rod as unique as their journey. That's where TB Custom Rods comes in. Handcrafted custom fishing rods built to your exact specifications. Perfectly balanced and tailored to your style. Work with Trapper and choose your design, select your components, and feel the difference of a rod made just for you. Visit tbcustomrods.com to get started on your custom rod today.
So spring fishing for walleye is absolutely dynamite. I would say some of my favorite ways to catch them in the springtime is a VMC moon eye jig, and then about a 4-inch like power minnow or grub tail from Berkeley. Those things work really well. Just hopping it along the bottom, you'll feel them pick it up. You can slam them every time. And Ned rigs. Ned rigs work really well in the springtime. I found this out a few years ago. I bought some Ned rigs from a store in Cheyenne, and I was fishing this creature bait off of it. It's like a salamander, about probably 3 inches long. And so with a Ned rig, the jig sits straight down on the bottom, and then the body of whatever kind of creature tail you put on there is sticking straight up. And I remember I threw it out the first time, and I was waiting for it to hit bottom. It never hit bottom. And so I started to reel and kind of gave it a hook set, just because that's what you do. When in doubt, set the hook, right? And sure enough, it was a walleye. I grabbed it on its way down. So I caught like a 23-inch walleye and then cast back out, and I caught an 18-inch walleye and just rinse and repeat. But it was pretty awesome. A lot of times it will get to the bottom and then you can hop it along the bottom. But the cool thing with a Ned rig is you can just wiggle your rod tip and it'll make the bait move. And sometimes that's all you need in the springtime. But that's one of my favorite ways to do it. You can fish fairly aggressive sometimes with jerk baits and catch them, especially at dawn and dusk. So look for those areas, find those fish, and just have a great time fishing in the spring. I mean, ice off is such a good feeling for me. I like ice fishing well enough, but not that much. I really prefer getting out on the boat, getting out on the water, and having open water. And so that's going to be happening just about everywhere. So I hope you'll get out and you'll give it a shot. Go out there, catch some suckers, trout, or walleye, and just have a great time. So until next time, I'll see you out on the water.
Angling Wisdom has been brought to you by TB Custom Rods, Kufaru, and PK Lures. Don't forget to subscribe to Angling Wisdom on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts so you don't miss any of our new episodes. Also go to anglingwisdom.com for more fishing content. Until next time, I'll see you out on the water.